am still inclined to go with Milwaukee at this point. Now, the concern again for Milwaukee is when it comes down to getting buckets, who can get them? So what they've basically done is just 4 out, Giannis is in, get the ball into him, and then the ball goes out to the shooters. Can that be effective for another round? I think that it can. I'm still leaning in that direction.
The Bucks had as strong a first round as you can possibly have. I think short of the 1986 Celtics, no one has had a sweep like that with a point differential like that. But the thing about the Celtics and how they stop Giannis in specific is interesting because they have these big guys. Al Horford is a very good defender. He plays physically. Aaron Baines is a big goon at the very least. Marcus Morris is strong and fearsome. And then there's Semi Ojeleye, who is the random name. He's played 23 seconds in the first round. But Brad Stevens last year, when they went to 7 games, said that guy is the best matchup on Giannis. Is he still that is what I'm excited to find out.
But what does best mean? I mean, he might be the best. Does that mean that he's a good one? Like, the thing about the names that you just put out there with Al Horford, Giannis is stronger than Al Horford and can take Al Horford outside. It's not like Joel Embiid, where Embiid's going to try to bang against Aaron Baines, and then it's just going to be like hitting a brick wall. So, like, to me, this is a different sort of character that we're dealing with in terms of guarding. But what's Eric Bledsoe going to be in this series? Because that's the one thing about this. He looked like just, he's everywhere in the course of the one against Detroit. So if they've got these other guys that can get some shots and where Brook Lopez stretching things out for him, I still think they get it. On the other side, though, the Celtics do have one guy we know can get his shot all the time, and that's Kyrie Irving. He's just going to be going against a mean defensive team.
Kyrie can get his shot. Gordon Hayward is showing that once again he might be able to do that. But the complication about forecasting these two teams from those two first-round series is that they both beat up on teams that were hurt, that were injured. Blake Griffin and the Pistons, we saw what happened to them last night. And, of course, we have Victor Oladipo on the Pacers. So what do we make of these two teams? This is why I'm excited for the playoffs. We finally get to see it.
Yeah, but to be fair, though, like, there's no question to me, though, that Milwaukee played better in that series than the Celtics did against the Pacers. Like, these two sweeps were not created equal. There were some games in that Boston-Indiana series that could have gone either way. That was never the case in this other one. All right, next name, Luke Walton. The Kings coach is being sued by former Los Angeles cable host Kelly Tennant for sexual assault that occurred sometime before Walton was named Lakers coach in 2016. The Lakers and Warriors say they didn't know, so where does this leave the Kings?
The Kings are in a world in which we have to take this stuff seriously, and we take it seriously without knowing anything beyond the headlines and what's been reported because of the history of people not taking allegations of this genre seriously. But beyond that, Bo, the Kings are left with the most complicated position here because the story goes that this happened, of course, before he was with the Lakers when he was an assistant with the Warriors, and the Warriors don't have him. They say they don't know what's up. The Lakers don't have him anymore. They don't know what's up. The Kings have him, and they don't know what's up, and that's the first part that they have him that makes this all complicated.
Yeah, but you said the Kings have to take it seriously, so I ask you and everybody else, what does that mean? Like, what does take it seriously look like? How do you demonstrate that you are taking this seriously? The NBA is going to investigate it, and I'm sure they're going to do the best they can on this. But all the Kings can say is somebody says that you committed sexual assault, and Luke Walton's answer is going to be, no, I did not do that. Are they supposed to put him on some sort of indefinite leave or something like this based upon a civil complaint? Like, I don't know where the lines and where the limits are on this, but, I mean, it's pretty obvious. If this bears out to be true, then it's over for Luke Walton, as well as should be.
Yes, it must be over if it bears out to be true. And the thing about taking it seriously, I think about it like this. If this was the NFL, I think there would be a harsh scrutiny because the NFL, we know, has been clumsy about this sort of punishment. The NBA, they've dealt with cases in this genre generally. But this is high profile with a guy who has become a major character for all sorts of basketball storyline reasons. And the NBA has a responsibility, the league office, has a responsibility to take that seriously, as vague as that suggestion is.
Right, because I can make the argument that the situation with the Mavericks and their workplace culture, for example.
Right.
You could make the argument that the league did not handle that clumsily, but there are also fair questions to ask about how well they handled that, when it's fair to ask how seriously they took it, because Mark Cuban has behaved in ways that make you wonder if he took it seriously beyond looking like he was taking it seriously when he came on our network to try to plead his case. So I just don't know. If you are Sacramento, all you can do is say, we're going to take this seriously, and then whatever that happens to mean, then carry it out.
Last name, Odell Beckham Jr. because the man went on a Twitter spree last night, Bomani, replying to all sorts of people and calling out both Giants general manager Dave Gettleman and coach Pat Sherber. But what did you find most interesting about Odell's social media spree?
Well, first of all, he said it started because he was in a good mood, and that meant that he was going to be licking shots at people, which is kind of counterintuitive to the way the internet ordinarily works. But this first tweet, I found this one, this isn't the first one we're going to put up. I found this to be interesting because he says, look, as any of my teammates of who I was as a teammate and as a man and a person, yes, I'm a cancer to a place that's okay with losing because I want to win that bad. You're absolutely correct. One thing he's got on his side is you haven't really heard from the teammates that have some kind of problem with Odell Beckham, right? Like this, what he says there seems to be in line with what teammates have said about him publicly and privately. But man, that's one hell of a zinger to send back at the Giants. I'm the one around here who wants to win, and y'all want me to be cool with it.
The thing about Odell and how he has seemed clownish on the field, on the sidelines of the field, kicking nets, punching walls, all that stuff. It is because he's the ultimate competitor in many ways. It is because he's not satisfied with losing and with his personal failings, and all of that seems to be very football and not something that needs to be thrown out of your organization if that's what we're talking about. But what's funny about how he approaches this is, look, he's trying to prove that he is not a culture problem, but he is doing it in the medium and in the language, so to speak, that does make general managers who don't get the internet and what it means to athletes like this, it makes them scared. And so there is this self-fulfilling nature of, let me clear my name by doing what set you off potentially in the first place.
Yeah, but he's not talking to general managers here, right? Like, he might be scaring general managers. I mean, he's on the team that he's going to be on. What general manager are we worried about him frightening? He's saying this to the rest of us. And he does
reputation.
Right, but he does have a fair point in this, is that once a team puts it out there one way or another that somehow you are the culture problem, writers and football fans love to talk about that, right? Because they can never be as good as these guys, but they can always be good worker bees. So they look at them and be like, oh, well, you should behave in this same way. What is the cultural problem that the Giants had? Because the Giants' problem did not appear to be one of culture, unless the issue of culture is keeping Eli Manning around for too long. The Giants' problem seemed to be they didn't have enough good players. Like, if they think that excising the most talented player you have is going to make you better because the culture is going to get so much better, that's counter to what I understand about how football works.
What I will say about Odell, though, is what you mentioned and hinted at the top of this, which was, what a weird use of the internet if this is how you're trying to get into a good mood. He called this therapy at one point, and the worst idea in the world feels like trying to get your therapy in your Twitter mentions, right? Like, that's the thing that forces you oftentimes into deeper introspection and an unplugging.
There's a reason they got laws that say your therapist can't talk about what you be telling to your therapist. Is because therapy is best done if you act like nobody's gonna hear you.
Yes.
Like, if you do it in front of us, that is not what therapy is, at least in the understanding that most of us have. But you know what Odell is. He a new dude, and this is just what new dudes do.
Very new.
Coming up next, Russell Wilson. Kind of new dude, kind of old dude. Find out who he gave Amazon stock to.
High Noon also comes in podcast form. Bomani has one too, so do I. But Pablo has the biggest podcast of all. Just